Hello and welcome to another vodcast from the DLTV Digital Fringe. And we had a really good chance to hear some of the awards this afternoon, but in particular was an emphasis on STEM. And lucky we were able to invite Arjen Lentz, who's with a group called OpenSTEM. And I was interested in the idea of the STEM principles, but also about implementing STEM across the schools. And would you like to explain a bit about the passion and what you've been saying here?
Thanks, Roland. So I did a talk here yesterday about implementing STEM, the digital tech curriculum in particular, in the primary years. Mm-hmm. We've been working with schools, particularly around Brisbane, but also elsewhere, helping. Yes, I know you're Queensland. Thank you. So working with schools and actually just essentially getting our feet wet. Because that's all teachers have time for at the moment, looking at the digital tech curriculum. And one of the main things we've been doing is actually integrating it very much with the mathematics and English curricula. Most of it actually fits in there, which means that the teachers have to stress less. They can use the existing things that they're already teaching. For instance, year one English curriculum teaches us about procedures. Recipes are a common example, but essentially that's the basis of programming. It's a matter of steps, one step after another, and you can actually have a recipe that has iteration, you might have a loop, you can have a recipe that actually has a fork in the road, an if statement, and that can take you all the way.
Or sultanas?
Absolutely, you have to make choices. So, and you have user input, what chocolate chips would you like to, some people really love their white chocolate, even though it's not really chocolate. So,
well.
I know it's sugar.
And sequence is important, and that you'd want to get.
That's right.
That's right. You don't want to do it in the wrong order. Put it in the oven and then mix it.
You are so missing a chocolate.
That's it. So the reason we do this also is not just so that the teacher can essentially present to the kids that it's not something really different. It's just, it's a skill they're already learning, and then it's used in another field, which is ideal, then you don't have to hammer on when you keep doing the practice with the kids. You can apply it to another subject and actually figure out whether they really get it. So the assessment becomes easier. The other thing is that it really, hopefully, the experience so far says yes, hopefully actually makes it easier for the teachers to find time for it and also their own comfort level. Because many teachers are just not comfortable with the digital technology in general themselves.
It has those scary words in it, like algorithms and code. And when you look at the documents, you kind of need some base level understanding to work out and unpack what it means. And I guess if you just look at it, it can be a little bit scary. Yes. So how do you deal with a teacher who's really freaking out and they can teach through a recipe, link it to English or apply it to maths in some way without having to be an expert programmer or an official computer scientist?
So many of the things we do, we develop resources for the teachers and actually provide, we do provide the resources, but we actually as an option have complete lesson plans. So that relieves the teacher of having to
the pressure
really get their head around it. Of course, they need to know what they're doing with the teaching, but they don't have to develop the entire material for their own class. Of course, they apply their own special teacher skills and adapt it to what their class needs at the time, the language and so on. We try to keep things as offline as possible, actually away from the computer very often.
So you don't need a computer or an iPad or a robot?
You can barely, that's it. So we're not opposed to using them, but particularly since, many schools do not have an abundance of resources. And if they do, the internet connection might not be as fantastic as people sometimes think it might be, because when you go online with even dozens of kids, but often, if not more than 1,000 kids, it's just too much for these connections, and relying on online resources and online games and other things, it just doesn't work. And if you rely on it, your entire school environment shuts down. It's not going to work. So we try to play offline. To answer your question on how to make it convenient for the teachers, the other thing we do is our initial resources. We're building two sets, one for the first year that a school teaches it, and one for the next. And the first year,
there's an iteration.
Yes, there's a catch up.
Yeah.
Because a year 4 kid now, as well as their teacher, are missing the the foundation to 3. So the year 4 implementation that we do actually covers that. Obviously, the faster pace than the other stuff, but we make sure that we cover that. The sneaky sideline is that we actually also catch up the teacher with some of the skills, and it's not just learning about programming, but it's comfort with Excel spreadsheets and comfort with word processors to the degree that they can teach kids more than just producing a classroom newsletter, because it's kind of a step beyond. It's not just use, it's teaching.
Yep.
So,
Something you said to me just before was about STEM principles, and we can sometimes get caught up with STEM subjects because it was easy. And I've just heard you say English now.
Yep.
STEM, English.
That's not in there.
No, it's not in there.
It's not really.
You can have a double E.
No, I don't think the idea is STEAM or string or other acronyms, because it's much bigger, and those STEM principles. So when you're working at the primary school level, teachers are multidisciplinary.
Yes.
You're teaching the idea of these STEM principles. How do they take to that?
Very well. Once we get past the initial step of we're doing something new.
Okay.
So I'll have to give an example that's outside of the digital tech.
Yep.
Another thing that OpenSTEM does is history and geography. Essentially, the whole HASS thing, which is, it's part STEM, but at least it uses the STEM principles. There's scientific investigations in there. And what we do there, as well as now with the digital tech, but with digital tech we have to do it even more, is integrate with other. So it makes sense to have these silos of subjects. And, we've actually heard curriculum people say, well, so when you're doing history, you're definitely not doing English. So the fact that you're, I know, but look, I'm not the teacher, I'm not the teacher, and I'm trying to work with the schools. I'm not going to argue at that point, but, I can pull it up on video now to the world. To me, this
you
makes...
show them this video and say, but Amanda was just surprised.
Yes. So it makes no sense. You're
But it does
reading a
make
text
sense,
on history.
when you talk about music and you look at the fact we all sing and we all program in terms of repetition and pattern and analysis.
It's all the same.
And I can start to see the connections now. Do you have the design technology cycle that you explain to people with some of the technology work they might be doing still?
We don't do design tech as part of what we do yet. We've particularly left that out for now. We kind of wanted to do that. We're not doing that yet. But there are definitely aspects in. Again, there's combination. It'll flow into that. But
and the elements within the digital technology curriculum as well, where you do go through that design process.
That's right.
And
okay.
developing products.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So not design tech.
Yeah.
Designing tech.
Yeah. In our fair enough. Sorry. No. Okay. So what we're doing with that, we're not quite at that stage yet with the materials, because the first year materials go slower because they have that whole catch-up thing to do. So we're not actually producing code yet. We'll get to that, but it is very important, I believe, to actually put in that foundation of the way of thinking rather than we need to produce code. So we don't touch code.org. We don't touch the coding aspects that Khan Academy offers, and we don't muck around with Scratch. It's more about playing around in the classroom and doing activities and solving problems in a way that actually helps think the way that programmers do, in a way that is now suitable for the real world.
The algorithmics and computational problem solving, that's laying down the foundations upon which we can do the coding. That's wonderful. And it's great to hear that you're still looking at modifying and developing and adding on to your program. And I appreciate
we have to.
and I appreciate you coming here to talk a little bit about that and sharing it with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Bye.